Okay, good morning, everyone. How was your weekend? Weekend? Exciting? Share? Fun? Restaurants? Bars? Parties? All right, moving along. Do we have anyone to share any marketing news or anything relevant, current events, trends? How did we say we were gonna go about that? We were gonna have some, kind of each week, have someone come up here and talk about. Did we discuss that? I gotta discuss that. Okay. All right, chapter 2, moving along. We are looking at strategic planning, right? The process, looking at competition, how do we create objectives, how do we define our goals, how do we create mission statements, right? How it goes from idea and concept to reality, and then the process beyond that, right? So we may think that starting a business is easy, it's easy peasy, get your LLC, right? And you, let's say, open up an online business, buy a website, or you have a brick and mortar, you have a physical location somewhere, hire some people, get some equipment, and see how it goes, right? Once again, we know that most businesses fail within the first 5 years, primarily because, just like in real personal life, usually poor planning leads to poor results. If you don't have a plan, you just kind of wing it, usually you end up with very poor results. So here we're going to look at how to be extremely detailed in the planning process, how we look at competition, right? How we buy companies out if we need to, how do we change our plan based on markets, how we observe trends based on what's going on, and all of that. Now this is kind of the starting point to your group presentation, right? Where you're looking at sort of your mission statement and objectives and goals and SWOT analysis and all of that. So kind of take into consideration what I'm talking about in terms of the companies that you're going to be doing a plan for. Has anyone already selected a company that they plan on? No? I recommend that you try to do that as soon as possible. Goes by pretty quick. Okay, so planning, right? How do we plan? Here we're going to learn how to develop a strategic plan, right? We're going to look at the role in marketing, the planning process, purpose and the structure of a marketing plan, right? The progress using metrics, right? We want to be able to measure things, not just state things, but actually show either the banks, show ourselves, our employees, our investors, something that they can measure. And then some ethical considerations as always. Anyone ever read the book, The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli? No. All right, this is one of the greatest sort of political philosophy books ever written. If you were in the mob, the Italian mob, they'd probably have you read it. You were in prison, right, and you're part of the gang, they'd probably have you read it. You had any sort of ambition of being a politician or went into political science, it's probably one of the primary books you would read. But it's about how to achieve power and sustain power, right? In a very complex world. It mostly deals with the reality of how things work. Business is very, very competitive and oftentimes very unethical. But it really depends on your definition of what ethics and values are. But we can talk about how the sort of strategy of Prince kind of works within marketing. Okay, first thing we have is strategic planning, right? We need a strategy. Just as in like, hey, what's your strategy here? You're like, oh, Dr. Ross, I don't have one. Okay, good luck. Right? Should have had one before you even came to college. A lot of money, a lot of time. You look at that, I don't have a plan. But somebody does, which means that you are all competing, right? Nature of human beings is to compete in a hierarchical system so that we can all destroy and beat one another. Whether it's sports, whether it's business, whether it's life, we're all trying to aim to get to the top of the pyramid. Right? Those who have a strategy and a plan far exceed those who do not. Right? Usually the results can be easily seen. All right, so we need a plan. We got different levels of strategy. We got corporate, business, and functional strategy. So what is a strategy? Okay, we need a plan, we need some objectives, we need some actions in place, right? Outline how business is going to compete in its chosen markets, given its portfolio of products and services. All right, first you say, hey, Dr. Ross, I have an idea. I have a product I want to create. Right, wonderful. And then like, hey, are you creating it yourself, or are you going to let a manufacturer make it for you? Right? I think I'm gonna let a manufacturer do it design, okay? If you understand how to buy it from them, you have to purchase from them, that's a cost to them to sell. If you were to develop it yourself, probably gonna be more of a cost. Right? And now you think of all the sort of selling tactics in that to get it sold. You need salespeople, you need advertising, you need budget, you need all sorts of things. So you need some sort of objectives, right? And outline how it's gonna go. And then I say, well, hey, do you have complementary sort of products to go along with that main product? Like, well, Apple has an iPhone. Right? Apple says, hey, we have a main product. I have an idea, an iPhone. Awesome. What else do we have with the iPhone? Right? People on cases. Right? Phones break if you drop it. I don't know if that's intentional. It could be intentional. Right? Say in business, you don't want to give someone the perfect product. You want to give someone just enough so that they keep coming back to buy more. Right? So you say, hey, I need a case for it. Okay, cool. I need headphones for it. I want to listen to music without disturbing it. Great. Complementary product. Right? Like, oh, I need to sign up for iCloud. Interesting. Okay, Apple. Got more stuff. Right? The App Store. More stuff. You may want to buy the apps. Right? But it works off of apps. Right? You got all these different sort of complementary things. You're like, wow, Apple has a wonderful portfolio just surrounding one product, which is iPhone. Right? So they have a great plan, and not just selling one thing. And that's usually a telltale sign of a company that's thinking outside the box. Right? Which means one product is usually never enough. You always gotta have complementary things. Right? Let's say you have a coffee shop. Let's say it's Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. I always like to use those. Hey, what has Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts done to sort of diversify its portfolio when it comes to coffee? What complementary products or complementary strategies does Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts have? Yes?
They do like breakfast deals, like you get your regular coffee and then like add some kind of like bagel or sandwich on top for an extra, like it's like a discounted price of whatever it normally is.
Yeah, you're like, hey, people like to eat with coffee. No one's, you know, you may not just sit and drink coffee, right? Especially on an empty stomach, empty stomach, right? Or you may have coffee at home. All right, so you add some food as sort of a package deal to lessen the price if they're combined. What else? We're just saying, hey, coffee, great. A store with coffee in it. What else can they do? Yes.
I don't really get Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, but don't they got like different drinks and stuff other than coffee?
Yeah, you're like, hey, different types of coffee. Someone says, hey, I have a wonderful idea to start a cafe, a coffee shop. Like, great, but you serve coffee. I'm like, what kind complementary things based on one concept, which is just coffee. I'm like, all right, great, now we got a multitude of drinks. We got a multitude of coffee-related drinks. What else? Where do we go from there? Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, or anything. Where do we go? Right, there can't be enough. It can't stop just there. Where else?
Dunkin' Donuts, they got that, partnership with, Baskin Robbins.
Okay, so you say, hey, coffee and ice cream. Wintertime versus summertime, right? Fall, winter versus. Okay, where else? Let's keep going, yes.
I know that Starbucks sells their own container full of coffees in the stores and grocery stores.
Boom, there you go, right? That's probably the major one. Right? Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts say, you know what? We sell coffee, we make the coffee, let's sell it in other stores. Just an ad. Right? Who cares? You know, I mean, we gotta go beyond the store. How do we get out of the store? How do we get the product outside the store? Sell it online, sell it at Jules, Mariano's, yada, yada, yada. Where else? What else?
I know Starbucks has a lot of popular merchandise that you like. I don't know about merchandise, but it's one of those.
Yeah, right, we think the thermos, the coffee mugs, right, all the branded sort of thing, like, hey, people like to take the coffee on the go, we'll sell the coffee mugs. They like shopping here, they like the brand, they like the logo, it's kind of cool, they'll buy it, right? Give it enough charge, make it unique, some merchandise. So we say like, hey, you know, one little concept of coffee can lead to hundreds of different related products, right? And that's what keeps Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. Not only that, but, you know, their brand value is really the thing that keeps people coming back. Yeah, I kind of coordinate. Sometimes, some days it's Dunkin' Donuts, some days it's Starbucks. I think Starbucks get better cold drinks than Dunkin' Donuts, but I think Dunkin' Donuts has better coffee. Who's a coffee drinker? Who's Dunkin' Donuts? Raise your hand. 1, 2. Who's Starbucks? So next thing, we say, hey, brand. Interesting brand. Some people are Dunkin' Donuts, some people are Starbucks. When we think of Dunkin' Donuts, we think of a type of people who go to their coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. For my Starbucks people, what do you think is the type of people that go to Dunkin' Donuts in your mind? What do you think? Right, there's an image of people who go to Starbucks. There's an image of people who go to Dunkin' Donuts. Let's build their personalities, professions, etc. Let's say Dunkin' Donuts are primarily, right? Let's just say primarily, we kind of associate it with blue collar people. Construction workers, contractors, things of that nature, right? People on the go. America runs on Dunkin'. People who get very little time. For my Dunkin' Donuts people, what do you think about the people who go to Starbucks? Okay. All right, Starbucks like students, with their cool MacBooks, cool iPhones, their cool hoodie on, cool gym shoes, hanging out there for hours, getting some drink with a fancy name, has their name on it. Dunkin' Donuts don't ask for your name. That's not what they do. That's not what they're about. Starbucks asks you for your name, right? People who want to feel special in some way. People who are trendy. Millennials, Gen Zers, people who are cool, people who are students, right? People who think that. Let's not even say it's a reality, but people who think that. Yeah.
I feel like Starbucks is more catered towards like a certain aesthetic, whereas Dunkin', like their whole thing is like America runs on Dunkin'. So they're not really selling the whole idea of like this aesthetic, but more so we're giving you guys energy. So, like,
Yeah. You're giving people, it's not about the aesthetic, it's about like the work ethic, the on the whole nature of your life. hey, difference, we're talking aesthetics, what's the difference in aesthetics? Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts on the inside. Why do you think it's that way? Yes.
People study at Starbucks,
Dunkin' Donuts is white, for the most part, bright, right? No one really wants to study too long in a bright environment, makes the eyes tired, doesn't make it as comfortable, kind of feels like a hospital to some degree, right? Starbucks, warm color, with panels, seats, sometimes they got leather seats. They're like, hey, hang out here and make yourself comfortable. Dunkin' Donuts, you don't see people in there with a laptop connected to the Dunkin' Donuts free Wi-Fi for hours. Right? It's not what their image is not. So we say, hey, you know what? You have to develop a brand and image as part of the strategy. Like, hey, what's your purpose as with this coffee idea, with this coffee shop, right? So we say, hey, you know what? And then looking at the chosen markets, right, of the product and services. And once again, we say it's a different market. Even if we both sell coffee, we sell coffee to different types of people, right? We're in the same industry, but we got a different target of consumer, right? Different type of person. So with your companies, first thing you want to think of is like strategy, like, man, who do we want to sell to, right? And even if you chose one of these local companies around here, Oak Park, River Forest, Rose Park, wherever, let's say you go in there and talk to the owner. You may have a very simple menu, let's say it's an ice cream shop or a coffee shop. Simple menu, some pre-made sandwiches, et cetera. But then you ask them like, man, who is your real demographic? And you're just like, oh, people that live local. And like, that's it, like, that was your strategy? Do you expect to grow? Right? Like, that's a limited strategy. If you expect to grow, I don't know. Maybe you're like, hey, I just wanted one store forever and ever, and that was it. Right? Or some people think big. They're like, hey, what does McDonald's do to become a franchise? Right? What do they do so that they have 30-some thousand stores around the planet versus one little store in Oak Park? What is it that they do? How do they do it? How do you master it? Right? So you can take sort of examples and say, hey, I'm gonna steal a little bit from McDonald's, Burger King, and maybe some homegrown retail environment, and I'm gonna implement that, integrate it, adapt it, and maybe I'll have something that feels local, but is worldwide. Kind of what Starbucks really hit on. It feels like a neighborhood cafe, but essentially it's global. All right, then we got our corporate level strategy, right? Covers the entire business in a complex organization where there are multiple businesses, divisions, operating units, or what we call SBUs, right? And so we start at the beginning, like, yeah, all right, coffee shop. All right, what do I need with a coffee shop? All right, I got a store, I got the equipment, I got the inventory. I got employees, but then I'm like, hey, do I have a team for different functions of the business? Right? Do I have people specifically that can manage inventory? Right? Make sure employees aren't stealing, make sure everything comes in correctly, monitor to see how much we sold, how much is coming in. Maybe even work with our suppliers, distributors. And then we can have someone that manage the actual store. We can have a retail manager, shift leader, something of the sort. Anyone ever worked at a Starbucks? Right? And then you say, hey, I got people who have concerns about employment, right? Their benefits, et cetera, so you're gonna have human resources. Right? So you got management, you got inventory, logistics, then you may have a marketing team. The people that all they do is focus on advertising or selling, personal selling is important. Right, so you got different business sort of units. Even beyond that, you can have other businesses associated with Starbucks. You can have like an offshoot of Starbucks. All right, for example, it was mentioned here that Dunkin' Donuts had purchased Baskin Robbins. Right? And so you say, hey, some Dunkin' Donuts just have a Dunkin' Donuts. Some Dunkin' Donuts locations have a Baskin Robbins. and the functional. Two different business units, right? So you have one, and then a team manage one or the other. Or you may have multitude of businesses associated. So that'd be a corporate level strategy. Say, hey, I don't have this one business sort of unit, I got multiple, right? A portfolio. Next we got business level, right? And this would just be one business unit. Keep it simple: marketing, management, finance, accounting, human resources, yada, 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 for one business unit. Different department managers have different teams within one business level strategy. And then functional, right? The plan to achieve the corporate business level objectives in functional areas, which is just to manage the actual functions of human resources, marketing, production, et cetera. Right? Everything like production. Because maybe you are getting a product made from a manufacturer. All right, so what's the steps in the strategic planning? We got step one, the vision statement. Where do you see the business going? So who here wants to be an entrepreneur? Who's going to start a business? Back there, what's the business?
Athletic facility.
Athletic what?
I'm in an athletic facility.
Okay, an athletic facility, a gymnasium, something of the sort. What does the vision in your mind look like for this concept?
I kind of just like to, give people an opportunity to grow and build themselves. In a space that I can provide.
With the facility, what do you hope to have inside? Like, what is the functions inside this facility?
I would like a wide variety of sport events. Like I'd like to have the courts where I can have basketball and volleyball and things like that. As well as like a soccer field and football lines and lines.
All right, so it's a multi-sport athletic facility. Maybe you need a lot of space, first of all, right? Soccer field, basketball court, right? Maybe miniature, tennis courts or something that can be converted, right? From one sport to the next, depending on the season. All right, that seems like a great vision, right? And where do you see it going? Who else? Yes.
To own my own vintage clothing store.
All right, so vintage clothing store, not a resale shop, just vintage, right? And how do you envision that looking? Like, what does that look like?
Just a small, it would be across from, I already have a plot, currently, it'd be across a coffee shop. So normally some people who also like to antique also like, coffee. So it'd be like right next door to that. But like a small business, only open on weekends, kind of just like a low-key place to go to hang out or even to shop.
Can it be replicated? Meaning that can you have multiple locations? Or do you envision just?
I envision just one, like a personal store. I guess only, yeah, so no.
Okay, so just one. All right, so at least you have an idea. You're like, hey, I see where the business is going. I just want one. I'm gonna focus on one. Maybe just one athletic center, or maybe it could be multiple in the future. Step two, we need a mission statement, right? Why does the business exist? Why will your business exist? What's the purpose? Like if you had a mission statement, like to serve who?
I guess those who want to express themselves through fashion.
Maybe, yeah, express themselves through fashion, or maybe have a nostalgic take, right? Or love vintage clothing that is maybe considered timeless, right? You can craft a vision statement, a mission statement, right? Which is extremely important, because it really summarizes exactly the nature of the business altogether. Typically, you want to keep it kind of general, because you always wanna make it kind of general and vague, but that there's always room for growth, right? So it may encompass like the next 10 years as well too, is what you're talking about. You don't have to keep revising a mission statement. So you keep it simple, you're like, hey, to serve people who love the nostalgia of vintage clothing. Done. That could be for the next 30 years, right? Don't make it too sort of specific. Or even with our facilities, like to give an environment where people can practice or compete within sports. All right, step 3, perform a gap analysis, internal audit, answer the following statements. Where are we now? Where would we like to be? What's stopping us from getting there? It never stops. Business never stops, right? You're always thinking about either the next month, the next quarter, the next week, like how can we grow from where we are right now? Right? What's stopping us from getting ahead of our competitors? Right? What are they doing that we are not doing? Right? What did they implement that we haven't implemented? Step 4, establish objectives and goals, the key actions that will allow the company to implement the strategy. Right? Like, hey, what are the key, there's maybe a list of 5 things that we absolutely have to do in order to achieve these goals. Exactly what I do. Maybe hire some new people. Maybe fire some people. Right? It may be to get a new distributor, a new supplier. Right? One may be too expensive. Maybe to renegotiate. Maybe to buy a new location. Right? Maybe anything. Or it may actually be to develop a whole new product. Right? But you have to have key steps to get to the goals. We call it gap analysis because it's really like, hey, where you are versus where you want to be. It's a gap. Right? Always forward thinking. Where we are versus where we want to be with these objectives and goals. And then step 5, monitoring progress. Continuous monitoring and revising where necessary to keep on track to meet the goals. How can we go about monitoring? How can we monitor progress? What are some ways we can monitor progress? With our plans, our objectives, with our business operations. So looking at the metrics or something. But how can we do that? How do we usually do that? Like now, how do we look at your bank statements? Where? Like on an app or something like that? You personally, if you want to check your account, what do you do? Yeah, right? You say, how I use a platform, I use a database, I use something where I can see some numbers, right? Then I can maybe go and look at all recent transaction history and be like, man, it's last December, I spent a ton of money, like what happened to the money, right? Like, yeah, I need to cut back. The same with businesses, you need a platform, a sales platform, an inventory database system, you need something that you can quickly look at to get some vital information. You're not looking through the whole thing. You're just like, okay, 2% here increase, 5% here decrease, something quick. I see we're either not doing well, right, or that we're doing exceptional. Right? Something very quick, some snapshot information. It's not easy. Like, you know, we can all start a business, and we may. But to have is really, the old saying is to have is nothing, to keep is everything. Right? So think of the main trick is sustainability. Most people can't sustain a relationship. Right? Your girlfriend, boyfriend, whoop-de-doo, broke up in 3 months, what you do? You can't sustain it. It's a lot of work. Nobody's willing to do the work. Right? It's the same with a business. You're like, hey, unless you're innovative, ingenious, forward thinking, right? You're changing things up, just like a relationship, it'll fail. Two, it's like, so we should kind of also relate this to like personal lives. Like, oh man, I wanna be a day trader, I wanna make $1 million, I wanna do all this cool stuff of the gurus on Instagram, YouTube with their podcasts. Right, that all sounds great, right? We don't know what they have or not. But the thing is, we have to act and plan for our own lives. And if we don't sustain that sort of drive, it fails, and we get frustrated, right? Start all over again. All right, so I think sustainability is the difficult thing with marketing or business in general. Most people can't sustain a business, and most people can't grow a business. Right? That's when we have Amazon. We're so forward thinking that all the mom and pop stores, deliveries, they're gone. Right? These corner stores, they no longer exist. Because Amazon did what it had to do to be innovative. These people didn't. They were dinosaurs. They didn't keep up. Right? So keeping up. All right, and then we got SMART goals. Right? Things that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound, which we also will implement into our plans. Right? So think about this with the first week of your plans. Right? Let me come up here and talk about it. Hey, keep it simple. If you can't explain it to a 2-year-old, you probably don't know. Right? You can't summarize in a few sentences, you lost the deal. Hey, tell me about your business. Oh, wait, so, it's complex, it's kind of, you lost the investor. Nobody has that time. Right? Simple, specific, clear. Somebody could know in 2 minutes. Right? I know what you. Now the little details is not important, right? It's not important initially. Yeah, later on when we have more talk. Specific, clear, easy to understand, measurable, quantifiable, and easy to track. That's the hard part. Right? And we're talking about an athletic center and a vintage clothing shop. Come on, I know there's some other ideas for businesses. What's at least the ideas that you have? Let me get some more ideas up.
Well, we're starting up.
Yeah, we're starting a business or a product or a service.
It's like retail clothing store.
All right, so a resale club, which I actually think is a great business. Think about it. You literally get people who either donate the clothes or you buy it back, or you buy it from them. Right? At a ridiculous discount. You give $2 for that Nike sweater, that hoodie somebody paid $70. Right? You resell it for $20. Right, I think that's a wonderful business, a kind of an easier one to start, easier one to kind of sustain, right? You could think of Goodwill, you could think of Salvation Army, right? Salvation Army's been around forever. Forever. People donate all this stuff and Salvation Army sells it back, right, at a profit. So good business, all right, resale shop. What else?
Like a bakery or like some food store?
That you're interested in?
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, I mean, it's just an idea that you're interested in, maybe. Yes.
Photography?
Photography. Personal photography, like you're gonna be the photographer that's taking pictures of
Yes,
people?
well, starting out.
Starting out, all right, interesting. All right, now we gotta look at, say, things have changed. Okay. AI is here. Right, so it's always about maximizing every single resource that's out there that your competitors will use. Things you're not thinking of possible, that others will. Yeah, we got this instant photography thing. We don't even go meet people out or something. I don't know, right? They can have something that's quicker, faster, more cost efficient, take less time, something of the sort. So maybe we'll come back and ponder some ideas, I guess.
Well, I was gonna add, like, I think just because something comes out a lot faster and something comes out like such as like AI, I don't think that will dilute the whole idea of photography business.
No, absolutely not. Photography, photography. People still love pictures of themselves. They loved it 100 years ago, right? The camera wasn't invented. They'll still love it. But how they go about it may lead to has the most market share, right? So if you just think of limitations, right? We'll talk about SWOT analysis in a few slides, right? But you're just like, all right, here's the pros, here's the cons, right? It's one me, it's one human being. I have meet these people, talk about the setup, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, how much time is that take versus what I'm charging? And then you just say like, well, how sustainable is that over 5 years? Like, well, okay, they're bringing more photographers, I just hire people, and have to pay them too, and they take my profit margin, coordination of all these things. It's just things to think about, right? Maybe it may be the greatest idea ever, but who knows? Yes.
I think like, for our idea of photography, I think battle is only one thing, like, if you can come up with like a phone attachment that you can like put like a different lens over the camera, and then you like use your expertise in photography, like tell them how to set it up and like, what poses they can do and stuff like that, or you can still be at home and do it locally, but you're outsourcing everything.
Yeah, you say, hey, I love photography. I used to be a photographer, and then I wanted to do something else. So I patented a device I could send to people and they could take a picture later. I make money, it's my device, they paid me $150 for the attachment. And I sold 20 million attachments last year. But I'm still a photographer. We make the camera, we make the lenses, we make the attachments, we make tripods, we make lighting. Are you the photographer yourself? And if so, are you a corporate photographer? You take pictures of universities, of the big promoted, individual, like I just like to do it for weddings and gatherings, people on Instagram, blah, 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 right? Influencers. So, you really have to think of like, hey man, which market do I want to be in under this category of photography? It's like, it's a huge category that has a lot of different ways I could go. And if I look at to say, in that category of photographer, who's making billions, who's making millions, and who's making thousands? And which area do I want to be? Do I want to be with Canon, Sony, right? Or do I want to be local? You really got to kind of figure out the real objectives. You're like, hey, what's the real end goal? Because oftentimes we take something passionate, like, oh man, I love this, I'm good at it, and I love it. Right, but then turn it into a feasible business, something totally different, right? Something totally different. All right, we said measurable, obtainable, should be reachable with some stretch, right? How much money do you have to dedicate to the business? How much money can you get? Right? That's reachable. How many people can you reach? What do you have? Right? What's the measures on that? Realistic, substantial yet obtainable, right? Yeah, you don't want to start small, it's probably best. You may want to start small. I don't know. Right? But you want to be realistic. And remember, how you move at the beginning usually dictates how you're going to move regardless. Right? When we say first movers usually capture the market share, whoever does it first. Some people say, hey, I'm going to take like $150 million from the bank, and I'm going to immediately open up 150 stores. Or let's say 50 stores. It's like the first plan is not to have one store to see how it goes. It's to have 50 inside some shopping malls, on the highways, driving all over the country. That's the first plan. That could be a strategy. You're like, well, why did you do that? You don't even want to do what it's gonna. He's like, well, I believe in it, banks give me the money, and I wanna take over out the gate, you know, I wanna take over out the gate. Someone else may say, you know, I wanna start one store. And I'll see how it goes, and see how successful it is, what I need to do to make it successful. And then maybe I'll open up the second, and the third, and the fourth. Different approaches, but be realistic with what you get. Some people can't get $150 million, other people can. They gotta borrow some money from their family to start the business or the operation. And then time bound, right? We say, hey, a plan, an end date, creating some urgency. Hey, is everyone on track in their academic progress? Like from when you started, like is everything going smooth just as planned? Who is not going smooth? I was gonna say, okay, yeah. Right, we say, hey, you know what? Things happen. Things happen. Real life happens. You may start a family, you may have some kids, you may get fired from your job, somebody's family gets sick, you got, life happens. And so even if you set a date, you should have maybe some leeway, like if this, then that, right? A redundancy. Right? The engine stopped on the airplane. What do we do? One of the engines went out. Is there a secondary plan, or was that it? One thing fails, we all die. Right? Has to be some sort of built-in redundancy. Right? But have something that's time bound, has an end date to create some sort of urgency. All right, here's our first discussion question with our groups. Hey, create 2 SMART goals. Create one. You have to create 2. A SMART goal. Listen on specifically, use your personal situation, work, home, or school. What can you plan now to meet the goal? Make sense? Personal, work, home, or school. What can you plan now to meet the goal? Right? And there's your SMART goals for your reference. So talk within your groups about what's going on and how you can create a SMART goal. Usually one covering all of these. Give you about 4 or 5 minutes.
Semester.
I had a full run
Nothing good, bro. Makes me not want to go. So you're gonna go home to do that?
Nobody said 400. No way.
Everyone. No, he's boxing. Oh, like next year. Or this year. Dad, how's the on Huh? Oh, you just fought. You didn't want to come watch it with us. Yeah, pretty much. I just took what he said and just applied it to that. No, you're good. Anyway, you should stay this good.
All right, anyone need another minute? Okay, over here, group one.
Our SMART goal was related to grades. We just threw out a random number to maintain above a 3.0 GPA every semester at college. So within that, it's measurable because you have platforms like Blackboard and CUC Connect with like your transcripts and like live grades that you can check. It's attainable because that's like a good starting number that we just picked. Even when playing sport or managing various other classes, like it's like a decent workload. It's realistic because like that's like a good spot. It's not like a bad spot to be, but you can also move it up. Like you know, you can build off of it. You can make new goals, and then it's time bound because we put it for every semester, so you can kind of go semester by semester and adjust it as needed.
All right, so goal is, SMART goal is good grades above a 3.0 GPA, right? A B or better, essentially. Each one is monitored, measured, and it has an end date for each semester. Maybe ultimately the end date is graduation. All right, here.
My SMART goal is to maintain at least 3.0 GPA with batting elementary and sophomore. So that's the for the regular season. So
All right, cool, so we'll go to academics, athletics, here.
Our first goal was to pass our classes this semester.
Okay, how many classes?
5.
5 classes. Realistic?
Yeah.
Attainable? Measurable? Okay. And just monitoring your progress each week? Okay. In the back?
So, my first goal was like, to increase my vertical, and I would do that by like, doing plyometrics every week, working at more mobility training. And measurable, I'll have like maybe weights when I do it, if I'm able to go up with weight, then I'll just show my progress improvement. Then attainable,
now?
Like, around 32 inches.
Alright, that's a good goal. Hey, increase vertical leap from 32 inches to 36 inches. Maybe you could say 6 months, maybe. At that degree, measure it. Have access, is it realistic? Yeah, access to a gym. How you gonna do it? Apply metrics and some weights, right? And just keep sort of monitoring your progress as you go. Alright, good goal, smart goal. Yes, over here.
So our goal is to use someone who shows up and specifically to this marketing class, and we're gonna do it by turning in all of our assignments on time and showing up to all the classes.
Okay, so goal is attendance, showing up on time. Alright, great. Right, hey, you know, it could be any goal, right? Any goal, doesn't matter, as long as we're tracking it, actually it makes a huge, huge difference. A lot of times we're just kind of like, we look at stuff at the end and we get mad when it's not the results that we wanted. But really, we didn't do anything to sort of keep it measurable or attainable to some degree. All right, next we're gonna look at the role of marketing in the strategic planning process, right? We're gonna look at business portfolio, identify some planning tools, describe a SWOT analysis, describe marketing strategies based on analytics. Who's ever done a SWOT analysis? For what class?
Leadership management.
Leadership. Good. Someone else? Okay. Who has not done SWOT analysis? Right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Remember we say, hey, business is like personal life. It's relationships, it's goals, right? So maybe you can consider doing a SWOT analysis for your own life. Like, man, what do I want to do? Like, I don't know, what are your strengths? Like, what are your weaknesses too? Are you honest to yourself about what it is? Are there some opportunities that are in front of you that you're not taking? Are there some threats that's kind of holding you back? So what are the threats? What can you do about it, right? So we'll look at that in a second. Hey, first, the marketing philosophy is important to represent throughout the strategic planning process. It is the marketing team that helps the strategic planning team to maintain this philosophy. With business, you want a business philosophy, right? What you are about, how are you gonna go about doing your business, what kind of culture and environment you want with your business. Are you a shark? Are you a whale? Right? Like, how do you go about doing it? Are you a tortoise? You're like, hey, slow and steady wins the race. Are you very aggressive in your strategy? What's your philosophy? Right? And you need a team to help maintain that philosophy. Second, to examine the current situation, marketers gather and analyze information along with the strategic planning team. Right? Looking at that gap analysis. Where can we go? Where's an opportunity that we potentially should look at? Right? Who are our competitors? How threatening are they? What do they do that's better than us? Why do people go there and not come here? Right? How do people feel about that? Examination, critical functions. Third, marketers are responsible for identifying and assessing the trends and impacts of those trends in the marketing environments. Hey, if you don't sort of recognize the trends and move with the trends, you're missing out on a lot of potential income, a lot of potential revenue. Right? You say, hey, we just do what we do and we don't switch it up at all. And you're like, hey, your competitors do switch it up. For every holiday, they have a whole new seasonal holiday plan with new merchandise. Right? There's a change in demographic, let's say in the neighborhood with the cafe, are you changing with that demographic? Are you still sort of just doing the same old thing you did at the beginning? Are you getting cheaper merchandise over time without risking the quality of the product? Right? Did you change suppliers? Hey, people got different tastes and preferences now. People like this now, they don't like that, right? Think of like even post-COVID, Now we're all kind of casual, right? Casual work life. Think of hybrid schedules, working from home 3 days a week, working at the office 2 days. Right? If you didn't switch up that business sort of objective, maybe if you held real estate, you probably lost that building. Let's say you're a real estate investor and you had office building, and then COVID hit, like nobody can come to the office, but you still got to pay that mortgage, 30, 40, 50, $100 million building, expensive mortgage, right? Companies are pulling out because now they got hybrid schedules, everybody's working over Zoom and Microsoft Teams, right? Google Meet, stuff like that. Like, what did you do to change? Did you just fail? Did you just die? Did you lose that building? How do you adapt? Right? Like, hey, you know what? We gotta convert this to residential condos quickly. Right? Get a sales team together and sell it as such. Right? We gotta do something to change. You have to change. You have to look at the trends. If you don't, then you're going to fail. And then we got business portfolio. Who here owns stocks? What's your stock portfolio look like, just in terms of companies or?
A lot of dividends, so mostly like energy and some cryptos too.
All right, you say, hey, I got a good investment portfolio. I get cryptocurrency, I get traditional stocks, let's say you have index funds, right? ETFs. You have all sorts of things, right? You're like, hey, I need some real estate in that portfolio too. Right? Hey, man, I want to own part of a small startup company. I need me some corporate investment as well there too, right? You can have all sorts of stuff. You can have a very divorced portfolio, or somebody's like, hey, I got it all in one thing. Like, oh, man, what happens? But one thing fails, then you lost it all. Right? You're one nest, and that's it. Somebody's like, hey, you know what? I got multiple nests. If one thing fails, at least I got other stuff to look forward to, right? And then you identify, you're like, hey, what's the strong sort of thing in my portfolio, right? What's the best, what's the worst, and how do I want to go about putting money to each one of those? I want to put all in the best, put some into another aspect. For portfolio, hey, what is a portfolio here? We're talking total group of product lines, services, and business units that the company possesses. Some businesses have only one, some have a few, and as we see here, companies like Microsoft revenues come from many SBUs, right? Business units. Analyzing and designing the portfolio is important to gauge what strategic movement needs to take place. Tools such as the BCG, Boston Consulting Group, one of the largest consulting groups, they provide analysis and data of markets and industries and sectors to companies that want that information. They have a matrix, which we'll look at on the next slide, and the SWOT analysis, ANS analysis. So here we're looking at Microsoft, right? Revenue in the millions, right? This is composition of Microsoft revenue. So you're like, hey, what is the main thing? What's the main product that Microsoft sells? What's the main product? Up here on the screen. Microsoft. Yes. Such as what? Who uses Microsoft for you guys? What cloud service do they have? No, Windows is kind of operating system. OneDrive.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you're like, hey, you know what? Back in the day, we didn't have that opportunity. We could store everything we got on the physical computer. So you could buy X amount of hard drive, right? You're like, oh, man, that's a limitation. I can't have movies. You know, back then before streaming, like, I had to download the movie, keep it on my laptop, pull it up. You know what I mean? It took up the space. Microsoft really got one of the leaders in online cloud services. So now all the businesses universities, institutions, keep it on the cloud. Like I have all my stuff and have access from my phone, laptop, wherever. I have access to the information, right? That even superseded what is next, really the Office products. So who has Microsoft Office on their computer? Right, and tell me some stuff in Office. What sort of applications are in Microsoft Office? Who's using Microsoft Word? Microsoft PowerPoint, Excel, right? All these different things. Critical. And then you're like, whoa, that's interesting because I can sell it to businesses, I can sell it to institutions, I can sell it to individuals. Right? So the students can buy it, businesses can buy it, and institutions such as the university might need it for all their computers when they go in their computer lab or the library or something like that. Like that's a lot of money. If you look at the number of people, businesses, and institutions. Next, we got the operating system itself, Windows, which used to be number one. What else? Microsoft's like, hey, that can't be it. It can't be, that's it. What's the fourth thing up here?
Game.
Such as, what is Microsoft on? Xbox, right? Microsoft's like, hey, you know what? Gaming systems are about cloud service now too, where you can buy the game off the cloud. Right? It's about computing power, all these systems, and that's what we do. We're in the operating systems, right? We got our own operating system. We got our own sort of applications and products. How about we get into gaming? Huge, right? Major competitor to PlayStation, right? Probably the two biggest ones. Next, what's the next one? What's the fifth one?
LinkedIn.
Who's on LinkedIn in this class? Who's on TikTok? Who's on Instagram? Everybody, right? Who's on Snapchat? Right. No LinkedIn? What is LinkedIn? Okay, one person LinkedIn? Anyone else? What is LinkedIn for? Like, what is LinkedIn?
Jobs. Like, job finding and or for you to see by resume, correct?
Yeah, it's your professional social media. Like, oh, okay, I got all Instagram, dude, look at all the cool places I went, right? Look what I'm eating, Snapchat, right? Every single moment, cool moment of your life. TikTok, right? All that stuff. Be like, hey, do I have a professional social media profile? Something that shows like, yeah, I go to this school, we have some projects that I'm working on, right? Let the employment world see what I'm about. But if you're not on there, you're like, hey, are you really putting your energy and effort towards finding a career or socializing on this TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook? Right, so I recommend getting a LinkedIn, make it look super professional, look at some other LinkedIn profiles and doing that. Because usually, you like, hey, I got to interview somebody, first thing they do is go look at that company, that's the first thing they're going to do. The second thing they'll do is might look at your social media, right, to see how distasteful you are, like, you know, the kind of stuff you post. But they're going to look at your LinkedIn. And if you don't have one, that might raise a red flag. Like, oh man, this person's not serious about how to represent themselves. Right? So think about your own self-marketing. The question would be like, hey, how do you self-market? If I don't, then I don't even know you exist. Right? I don't even know you exist. You gotta tell me what you do. You can have it online. You can make it easy. Do you promote yourself? Right? You are a brand. So when somebody sees you, they're like, man, that's a fancy brand. I like that. Or somebody be like, I don't know. I'm gonna do it. You are just like a corporation. You're a brand. You're either Gucci, Louis Vuitton, or you're some no-name, rinky-dink, hole-in-the-wall corner store. Right? But that's literally how the representation is. It's not fair. It's not great. We don't live in ideals, we live in the real world, right? So it's about how you're perceived, right? Perception is the key. The perception. Right? So, you have to get yourself out there in a very professional, in a very, if you're serious about making money and about business, you do want to be like a company, right? Now you be selective on what you market for yourself, right? If not, then we say, hey, you got low brand value. Now, some people on social media, like, how they got high brand value? Because maybe it's about followers and likes, right? Your favorite influencer got 300 million followers. Great, you're like, man, that's a great brand. Everybody operating business, right? They're doing good. All right, so then, hey, Microsoft bought a social media platform, right? So Bill Gates was like, hey, I don't want Mark Zuckerberg to think he's better than me. I'm Microsoft, right? I want to buy one too. Elon Musk is like, hey, I don't want Mark Zuckerberg to own WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook. I don't have them. They got money. Let me go ahead and buy Twitter, right? To be competitive, because they see that there's a large market. Social media, free platform, everybody sign on and just love it and look at all this content all day, whether it's useless or not. That's a big market to get into. And Microsoft wants to be part of it, but they want to be part of it in a professional sense. Like, we create platforms for people to do homework or operate a business. So the social media platform we want is the professional. Right? Looks like Microsoft, really. Kind of same colors too. Color schemes. And then search advertising. What does it mean by that? Search. What does Microsoft own as search? Hey. And Microsoft's like, hey man, we got a ton of money. What do we do with this money? Hey, we have to get into search. Because there was once Yahoo, but now everybody uses Google. Everybody uses Google. Well, you're here in the United States, right? Like, we don't even say, hey, search it. We say Google. Google's synonymous with search. That's how big Google is. Right? And so it's like, hey, get in that too. What's the opportunities there? You promote news, advertisers, right? Everybody got to get their information out, which is using the search platform. And then we got other things, enterprise services and devices. What devices? What other devices besides Xbox? Yeah, I got a Surface Pro, right? You go watch your favorite NFL team and the commentators on there. They're purposely promoting Microsoft Surface Pro, laptop in front of your face. Right? Microsoft's like, hey, we'll sponsor, give you some money for this program, for this football program. That's really how they promote it, right? They get the big sponsors, the commercials. And Microsoft is like, I want to be one of them. But make sure you put our laptops in all those commentators. Make sure they see our logo, the Surface Pro. Right? Wonderful device. I think it's the greatest device for a laptop. Well, one of the greatest. Why can't Apple make a Microsoft Surface Pro? Or something like it. They have a MacBook, iPad Pro, iPad, desktop. Well, how come they can't make one device that's literally both a full computer and like a tablet as well too?
Microsoft has
Not necessarily. I mean, you can't patent like the integration of things, right? But you can just tweak a few things. Yes?
They want people to buy a MacBook and iPad.
It'll cannibalize. Like, oh, can't have that, right? The Surface Pro, take a parts tablet, just pull the keyboard out. Has a little stylus, you can write on it, do all the stuff, put it back together. It's a full-blown computer. And Apple's like, no, you gotta make sure you buy the iPad and the Mac. An iPad Pro is not a full-blown computer. Right, so Apple's like, no, that's not what we do, Microsoft. That's what you do, and you did that because you waited too long. Right? We were the first movers with all this cool sort of computer systems, right? focus on operating systems and Windows, the office stuff. So Microsoft's like, "Well, how do we keep up? You can't just like make a tablet, you know? It's gonna be a slow burn." So they integrated all in one, and it's been very successful. But Apple's like, "Hey, you know, it still don't matter. People still, once you bought Apple, you already have a relationship with it. This is like a boyfriend, girlfriend, you're not gonna die, because you gotta know what to expect. It makes life predictable and easy and comfortable. That's what we like. We want predictability, comfort, and ease. I don't like to learn new stuff all the time. It shakes up our world. Right? So you'll continue to buy the iPad and the MacBook separately. I'm like, that's a lot of money. Apple, no wonder Apple's over $1 trillion, right? So Apple's like, hey, we do what we do. Microsoft, you do what you do. And then each one has their success. But the point is, of all of this, is like, hey, Microsoft is like, beyond operating systems and office suites, we could go far beyond. Based on that core value system, which is computing power and processors and operating systems. Like, there's so much opportunity with that, right? Kind of sticking to the same sort of idea, but just spreading it out in more creative ways. Okay, welcome to the BCG portfolio and all that on Thursday. And then too, we'll talk about on Thursday how, you know, maybe each class, if people can share something, come up here to share something new about going on in the world of business or marketing, that'd be great. There's an opportunity to speak for a minute, nothing long. Some of you want to share, if you want to, go back to your seat. We'll talk about that on Thursday. All right, have a great day, everyone.
We have that.